Hi, Facebook friends. Helen Arcantu here, CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am so happy to have some time with you today on this Friday. I am so passionate about the work that we do and being able to support women in every age and stage of their life. And there's so many complexities to all that we deal with. And we focus our conversations in, so many areas of ways to provide resources and supports for the women in our community. One of the places we really have made a commitment to doing more of is to provide support, resources, and information, and quite frankly, just a place to openly discuss issues that around women's health that normally are kept as like the kind of secret whispering behind the scenes conversations. And so, this is part of a conversation like that. I'm so grateful today that we're going to be talking to you about a very important topic for all women, no matter where you are in life. You're heading here if you're not there yet, and I can say it as someone who is living in menopause now. It's a conversation that we need to have a comfort level in talking about and not feeling like it's something that we can't talk about with others. So it definitely is a life change, an absolutely life change. And so it is so important that we talk about how that impacts us. So with that, I'd like to welcome our guest today, who is Eileen Franco. And, she is a certified holistic wellness coach from the International Association of Wellness Professionals. And she's here to talk to us about how we navigate through this time in our life. So welcome, Eileen.
Thank you, Helen. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about with your audience about such an important topic that should be top of mind for every woman out there.
So this is just a very natural biological process, but again, something that does not really get attention. And before we jump into it, because I know you are, passionate about talking about this openly and publicly and educating and being a resource, I want to make sure that our viewers know a little bit more about you. Eileen is key in helping businesswomen solve their challenges around menopause. As a businesswoman herself and having gone through the transition, also we are sisters here in that stage of life for sure. She knows how it impacts everyday life and career. She's been through it, and that's part of what she's so generously going to share with us today about her journey. She empowers women through knowledge, through natural strategies, and through tools to reclaim their body, help reverse symptoms, and really just help us live our best lives through another phase of our own. That
Absolutely.
again, we're not stopping it, it's coming. We just need some guidance sometimes in order how to manage it. Her holistic approach is really a focus where she coaches her clients on creating physical transformation so that you can feel amazing as you're going through this transition. She's been a guest on several podcasts, spreading this message of wellness and how to navigate menopause successfully. She's been featured as a holistic wellness coach in The Ultimate Guide to Becoming Your Best Self from the International Association of Wellness. Professional monthly newsletters and various social media events. She herself is a mom of three. She worked in corporate America for 36 years, and after experiencing her own health breakdown 8 months into her transition into perimenopause, which we're going to talk about. What is the difference between the two? She's going to talk about how she was able to reclaim her health, reclaim her life. She resigned from her corporate job and just created a path that aligned better with her heart, and really something that ended up becoming a calling for her, of a path forward that, she found her way and really sees, her role is to help others. And she, wants to educate us all on naturally, what's happening, with this process and what we can do, to navigate it. So, with that, again, Eileen, so happy to have you here and so grateful for you to be just so generous to share your journey. And also, I love you kind of being the model for others that really says, like, this really is a transformational time in your life. I mean, you think about like a butterfly, like a caterpillar, like getting its wings.
Yeah.
Like, we sometimes think about menopause as a time where we shrivel up and die,
Yeah.
and, you really, with what you're done, you're just showing like a new shedding of our skin and like reemerging again in a new, vibrant, and impactful way. And I love that being the model of this discussion.
Yes, absolutely, Helen. I think that many women tend to think that when transitioning into menopause is the end of life. And as it tends to be, society also treat women that are going into menopause as, that's it for you, the end of the road. But it's quite the contrary. It's a time for us to recreate ourselves and put ourselves in the forefront, to really prioritize our health and well-being after being a mother, a daughter, a wife, a sister, and giving so much of ourselves to others and putting ourselves on the back burner is so important, specifically during this stage because of the transformation that's going on internally, for us to really put ourselves first. And there's no selfishness in that, because if we don't, there's consequences, and that's what happened to me.
Well, again, I'm so grateful that you're sharing your journey, and we're going to keep talking about it at the YW and keep
Yeah.
bringing it into open spaces because, again, there's so many women historically that have been through the challenges that pop up, and many of those challenges are really just related to the fact that we just don't know, we don't have a place to comfortably talk about it, and so we're not prepared, for what's coming, and half of the issues are really just, having a better handle on it so that it isn't like a thing.
Yeah. So it's
you
not
know
a it's not as huge as it tends to happen when we're not waiting for it, or
right.
when we're not ready for it, or when we don't have our body prepared for it. Because it really comes down to that. It's knowing, being proactive and knowing what does it mean, what can this cause? Because I'll be honest, I've encountered women that have not had any symptoms whatsoever, which is something interesting that I would like to research further. But for most women, and the majority of women, we all going to go through this transition and going to feel certain different types of the multitude of symptoms that can occur. So it's absolutely something that you want to definitely be proactive in, and be get your body ready for, so you can have a smoother transition and still feel your amazing selves. It really saddens me when I see in forums that I participate in Facebook, women saying, I hate my body, I hate my life. And it breaks my heart because, they really think that there's no solution. And there really is solutions if they just are able to. Unfortunately, these Facebook groups don't allow people to help them as much. You have to follow the rules. And that's, I mean, I've been kicked out of two groups because of that, because I've been wanting to help women and they just kick me out. But it's sad. And many women are suffering. They hate their bodies, they hate themselves. And it's I just want to spread the message that you can really recreate yourself, and have a navigate menopause so fun and so successfully.
Well, here's the place where we get to help women,
Yes.
by sharing it here. So let's start with something so basic
Okay.
because I do think that it's needed.
Sure.
What is perimenopause and what is menopause, right? Because, even if menopause has become much more of a discussion, perimenopause, like, recent, seemed like it's like popped up, like out of nowhere, which I know it didn't, but again, it's not, again, we don't talk about the one, so we definitely haven't had a lot of exposure to the other.
Yeah, so menopause in general is like the umbrella, but and under that you have perimenopause, menopause. It's three stages: perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, and they overlap one another. So perimenopause usually happens for women average age of 40 plus, although it has been happening for women in their 30s, mid to late 30s as well. And in perimenopause, the body starts making changes and giving hints. And even though your hormone levels, if you go get them tested, which I did, tells you no, you're okay, your body just starts acting funny and quirky. You can start gaining weight unexpectedly. You can start getting mood swings, irritability. You have irregular menses. You have headaches. You have bloating. I mean, the list is there's over 30 plus or even 30, 40 plus symptoms that a woman can feel because it depends on our body, right? So with perimenopause is the stage where your body is starting to kind of hand off to the reproductive process to the adrenals. And that is a huge transition. I mean,
Mm.
it's not a piece of cake or a walk in the park. Your body, your reproductive system is saying, okay, I'm done, no more babies. I'm going to pass this on to the adrenals. And this is the transition that's taking place and why your body goes into chaos. Now, menopause you're in menopause after you go 1 year without your menses. So if 1 year you're without your menses, that's it, you're in menopause. And then shortly after, there's like no time frame that has been given on that. You can slide into postmenopause. And hopefully at that time, your symptoms have subsided. You can still have some of them, but these menopause and postmenopause are kind of like integrated together. So I'm already in postmenopause, but I'm still experiencing symptoms if I don't take care of myself and when I don't. So that's the three stages. There's one that tends to happen that's called premenopause, but this usually tends to happen on when there's a life event occurring in a woman's life. Maybe she had an accident. Maybe she went through a traumatic emotional event that can kick her into menopause, perimenopause way before her time, or her numbers of eggs have already finished because each woman has a set number of eggs throughout her
Mm.
lifetime. So those are the stages.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and I think you said something earlier, which I think is so key, is that it's so different for every woman.
Yes.
So you share your experience, I could share my experience. It starts at different times for us. We each have different symptoms. And depending on what's happening around us, both environmentally and with other things in our body, like if you end up having some other kind of health issue, can really redirect and change what's going
Absolutely.
on.
Yes.
So as a result of it being so many variances to how this kind of plays out, um, it is really hard to talk about in a sense too, because no two experiences are probably the same, although there's definitely themes. And as you said, there's not enough research. There's not enough, and I would say, for example, like I am probably someone who had the light version of it to date.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, and, so I've heard some of this stuff, and I sometimes sit and think, is it coming? Like, is that stuff coming? I haven't had it yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even like you said, and again, I think it's so important that we, share and talk about these things because I remember when my period did kind of like, ghost me for a while, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I guess this is it. And then it came back again
Right.
for like a few months, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess this isn't it,
So you're perimenopause.
but then it stopped again, and
Yeah.
then it had stopped. Then it stopped for a period of time. But even that, like that whole piece of it, um, it's different for everyone. So I
It,
do appreciate you kind of giving us some more clarity around the terms, the topics, the phases, and just reinforcing that it is really a different experience, but there are definitely themes.
yeah. I mean, perimenopause for each woman and menopause that occurs. There's the DNA factor that trap. Your DNA, your family history, and your lifestyles, and your lifestyle that contributes to a lot of how and when you're going to go into menopause and how chaotic it can or cannot be. Usually, perimenopause can last anywhere from 2 to 10 years. For me, it just lasted a year and a half, and that was
Mm.
it. And I was into menopause. And it all depends on our lifestyles, and definitely our how we take care of ourselves. But there are underlying causes that can definitely, even though we're so different in how menopause can affect us and how it's going, how our body's going to react, or when, there are underlying causes that is universal that can be addressed to help alleviate the transition as you're going through it.
Yeah, and I really I think that it's so much to be able to have a place to talk about it, right? And so much to be able to like ask those questions, to
Absolutely.
someone. And you also said, which I think was so key, about your family history. But because no one talks about this, you may never have asked the women in your family, your grandmother, your mother, when you had access to them. You never talked about it, so you don't even know your family history, so you can't even factor
Yeah.
that piece into it, and you may no longer have access to them because they've passed on when it finally hit you, and you're just like, wow, I just don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a taboo. I mean, there's women that even to this day, there was an article, this particular reporter, I can't remember her name, kind of was diminishing the transition and the suffering that many women go through being a woman herself. And it's, I guess, because maybe she feels this embarrassment. Some women do feel shame. Some women don't like to talk about it. There has been studies that have shown that women prefer not to talk about it, especially if they're working for a male boss. And there has been UK studies reporting that women have been mocked at for going through menopause, and even having repercussions, being put on performance review because they haven't been feeling well and going to doctors. So there's a valid reason why so many of them don't want to come out. But when we don't address these things out in the open and with transparency, are we really helping ourselves in trying to find a solution? We're
Right.
not, right? Because we're keeping it in the dark, and anything that's kept in the dark, it's not going to shine, light is not going to shine in there. And we need to be free with it and accept it because it is a normal process. And organizations, one of the biggest thing is organizations or employers not supporting women as they go through this transition.
And also, I mean, like, because again, there's not a lot of conversation about it, but we hear that your period stops, right? I mean, that's kind of like a standard, that if you,
Yeah,
whatever you don't know, at least you know that that's part of it. We hear about the mood swings, honestly, because it's become like a male joke, right? It's
yeah.
really like a place where
Oh,
they
she's
knock,
crazy.
right, we get knocked down about the kind of the mental health aspect,
Yeah,
that and the hormonal aspect that goes along with this throughout our, the beginning to the end. Like, it has become like a joke,
yeah, yeah.
which is, obviously, is is a whole nother issue, but part of the culture of
Absolutely.
that impacts gender equality, as you're noting, because it does
Yes,
impact a woman's ability to be able to, it can impact, a woman's health, which can impact her ability to do her job. And again, if you can't talk about it, then that can't be addressed. But um, some of the other issues, right, that are less obvious to people, right? And one of the issues that I ended up having, which, again, I didn't have a lot of the mood swings, I didn't have some of those things, but what I did end up having was heart palpitations.
mm-hmm.
A whole series of heart palpitations that twice I thought I was having a heart attack and went to the emergency room in the middle of the night.
It's
And after
anxiety.
like a whole series of tests that were done, there was no like medical basis for it from a cardiac perspective. And the question finally came, well, are you in menopause? Are you like getting menopause? And so there are other aspects. So what are some of the things that people do go through that aren't talked about as much, maybe that people should be thinking about, as like, maybe, oh, maybe that's connected, but you don't know that because you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. So one of the things that in my own journey, that I was experiencing 2 years prior to my transition, was a lot of stress in my life. The organization was going through mass reorg, and people were being let go. So I was kind of like always being bounced around. And I was under a lot of stress and I wasn't sleeping. I was only sleeping 3 to 4 hours a night, waking up in the middle of the night with these thoughts or anxiety, palpitations, because many women experience that as well, not being able to get back to sleep for a couple of hours. And that's a classic symptom of adrenal fatigue, which is correlated to menopause. Because what happens is your adrenals, as your body is transitioning and passing the baton to the adrenals to now produce the sex hormones, and if you're leading a stressful lifestyle where you're overwhelmed and you're constantly on the go, 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 you have a poor diet, you can't say no, you're in a constant overproduction of cortisol. And your adrenals is the one that produces that. So what's going to happen? Your adrenals is not going to be able to make your sex hormones. So you're not going to be able to get the hormones that you need. So your adrenals become fatigued, and then hence the classic symptom of waking up in the middle of the night and you're thinking it's just stress, but it goes deeper than that. It goes with your lifestyle. We don't think that our lifestyle has anything to do with what we're experiencing, but it has so much to do with it, as well as it affects our job performance, right? In a UK study that came out in 2019, 900,000 women quit their jobs because of menopause, and 70% decided not to climb the corporate ladder. These are things that are not thought about, but that definitely is happening to women, and they're not aware of it only at the time that they're going through it. So these are some of the major things that I think that impacts, that is really not noticeable, because I thought I was just being stressed out and it was normal. But hence, come my transition 8 months later, on top of all the symptoms and on top of the stress, with my poor diet, probably, which I was eating healthy, boom, I had a health breakdown.
Mm.
Right? So you
Yeah,
have the
I
lack of sleep, you have it affects work performance. It also, the things that is not talked about is when estrogen declines. Estrogen really protects us from heart disease. It protects us from cancer. It protects us from strokes. These are the things that are important for women to understand, that you need to be on top of your this phase. You need to be on top of your symptoms and make sure you
mhm.
find alleviate them and help and support your body and what it needs, because it will affect your health and it increases the risk even further.
Well, thank you for sharing that again. There's so much in there for us to kind of unpack. In other conversations for sure. But it's jarring to hear those numbers of the
Yes,
women that made career transitions during this physical life transition that they were going through. And quite frankly, my guess is that that number is underrepresented because a lot of people probably aren't talking about it to reporting the additional ones connected to it. So
absolutely.
it definitely just further reinforces the importance to be talking about it and finding places and spaces to create support and resource. So how do we take our power back, during this time that really can make us feel out of control? Physically, mentally. What are some suggestions, that you can give us to try to harness, ourselves and keep us on a course?
Yes, I mean, there's so many symptoms that are happening, that is, things that are not, mostly addressed there in the open, but it's definitely self-care. Again, women are the nurturers, they put themselves on the back burner. You really have to prioritize your self-care above anyone else's at this point, because you cannot pour from an empty cup, and you don't want to prevent having other health complications down the road. So you want to definitely take care of your there are foundational things that you need to do to be able to have prepare your body for it. And if not, to start addressing the symptoms that you're having. I mean, this goes whether you're in menopause or not, in perimenopause or not. You definitely can start by detoxing your body, because a lot of it has to do with the toxicity levels in our body that creates so much chaos. You have to reduce inflammation. You definitely have to eat the foods that are anti-inflammatory. um, Keep away from bad oils. You want to eat the good oils, just coconut oil, avocado oil, or olive oil. You want to be able to reduce stress. Stress is one of the biggest culprits of adrenal fatigue and gain weight during menopause and perimenopause, right? And you want to be able to lose that weight because insulin resistant leads to
Mm-hmm.
Alzheimer's, which leads to something else. It's been established, right? So it's really keeping on top of your health, and most importantly, changing to a better diet. You want a wholesome food diet. It's a complete lifestyle change, Helen. It really does take a holistic approach, but these are the foundational. There's more that needs to be covered, like exercises, like your
Mm.
mindset, like your digestion. You want to detox your major organs. It does take a holistic approach, but not to overwhelm the audience. Really start with the foundational, because if you don't start with that, you're gonna get probably temporary results, and they're not sustainable. You really have to go to the root cause and at the root level. And as a holistic wellness coach, that's what we do. We go to the roots to figure out how we can make these changes and that they're more sustainable and permanent. And those are the ones that I encourage women to start, even if you're not there yet. You detox the body from heavy metal, from toxicity, reduce stress, inflammation, and change your diet to a diet that's with anti-inflammatory foods and the good oils. That's a great way to begin.
Well, just as this whole conversation has been, just in that mouthful you gave too, there's so much to unpack there. I mean, there can be, entire workshops on just
Yes,
one piece of that. And to
absolutely.
our viewers, I commit to you that we are going to be doing more of these conversations. And we've had different guests on YWTV enough that we really are amassing a dream team to be able to put together a program for you that really talks about this in detail, so that whether you're going through it or whether you're just kind of preparing for what's coming, that you have the information you need, and the support you need. And obviously, Eileen is a wealth of support. We want you all to know how to get in touch with her. She has a website. Her email is here for you. You also can follow her on her social media platforms, which is on Instagram. She's on Instagram. She's on Facebook, she's on LinkedIn, and as I always do, and so grateful, I start following immediately after we have these conversations, folks, so that I can stay connected to them and the work that they are doing. And I encourage you all to do the same. And I also, again, make the commitment that this is not the end of this conversation. This is the beginning. Again, you've identified so many areas for us, so many areas for us to be doing a deeper dive,
Absolutely.
for conversation. And I have to just say, you said one thing there that I think, again, is also so characteristic of what gets labeled during this time, which is around the weight gain, and that, like, oh, there's nothing you can do about it. It's just part of life, kind of
Not
thing.
true.
And it's not. It's
It's
not
not true
true.
at all.
It's
I
not true.
I gained 20 pounds and I lost it.
I had a similar situation, and so I totally that's one of the pieces that we need to educate folks on
Yes, absolutely.
better, because it really is, your hormones change, so you have to change to be
Yes.
able to change with where you're going. But if you don't know that, it does creep up on you,
Yeah.
and then that does do an emotional head trip on you too, because you don't fit in your clothes and people are making
Yeah.
comments, and so anyway, it's right, that piece alone, is a workshop.
It's huge. It's huge, Helen. It really does take a holistic approach at looking at ourselves, looking at our lives, and seeing what we can make the changes to be able to bring back that balance into our body and even get into this new phase with much more joy and less chaos in everyday life, and not affecting our work and our work performances. And
Yes,
and
yes.
even marriages. I mean, these are some of the things that happen with the
People,
menopause.
yep,
Yeah, marriages
people's,
are broken up as well. I mean, it really has a huge, huge impact.
for sure. And again, the more we're talking about it, the more that we can navigate, potentially prevent some of,
Yes.
what we're dealing with, and the pieces that are just, akin to it, at least supporting through them. because again, it is for a period of time, but it can be a really disruptive period of time if you're not prepared for it.
Absolutely.
So with that, folks, again, as happens, we could talk all day and some, and still not cover it all, but we will keep talking, and we will keep talking to, Eileen, and we'll look forward to having you back,
Thank you.
in another, whether this or another forum where we're going to keep talking. Again, I want you all to know where to connect to her. Stay, in her circle so that you can, again, whether you're going through it or whether it's coming, it's important, to kind of be prepared and be proactive and be supportive and be kind to yourself, through it for sure. And with that, please stay connected to our social media as well. There's so many important events happening at the YW. This is a season where whether it's senior wellness opportunities, both physical and mental health wellness for our seniors. We have great programs like our journaling workshop, which is free of charge and on Zoom. I mean, so much of what you're going through life, like what we're talking about, creating an outlet for you like journaling in your life, it will really help you put perspective and understand and figure out what you need to focus on, but creating that habit for yourself. As well as we hope you join us on October 22nd, where we are participating in the Menstrual Equity Health Summit that's happening for, here in the state of New Jersey, at the NJIT Campus Center from 12 to 4. Again, another part of this conversation that ends up getting whispered about and not spoken about, so we're looking forward to that as well, and so much more happening. So please stay connected to our social media so that you can learn about those events. And we also hope we see you all on November 1st at our gala, which is in Woodland Park at the Westmount Country Club. And it's a great opportunity to celebrate all the amazing work and all the wonderful folks like Eileen who support the YW, volunteer their time to help be a resource for you in the community. And we look forward to celebrating with you then. Everyone, have a great weekend. I hope you feel empowered and inspired by this conversation, because I know I do. And I also hope that you are part of really the magic of YWTV and you share it with somebody you know. You can do that by taking this link and putting it on your Facebook page, copying it, sending it in a text, sending it in a message to folks in your circle that could benefit from it. And as I said, even if you're not there yet, it's coming. So there's always going to be people in your circle that can benefit from it. So please help spread the word about the great work that Eileen's doing. And again, just the topic, so that we are all part of demystifying it. And helping push, change the narrative, change the culture, and, supporting women, which is, of course, at our goal of empowerment and like deeply rooted in our mission. So everyone have a great day. Eileen, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed talking with you. I learned so much, and, grateful that you're out there sharing your story and, your skills the way you do.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you for having me and for giving me the opportunity to spread the message.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.